You're kidding.
Yeah, they've been doing this nonstop.
So they take somebody else's house.
Yeah, and the military comes in and kicks them out.
Wait, kicks out the owners of the house.
Yeah.
Bro, I'm not gonna lie. This is depressing as hell.
If you were to, there's a different designation for like the most insane aspects of Israeli society, because like you have people living in like Tel Aviv and Israel proper, okay? And then you have people living in the West Bank. The people living in the West Bank are the most insane because they are the most loyal soldiers of Zionism. They're basically the most insane. They're like, no, we have to live here so that we can take over this land and eventually. And the Israeli government has basically allowed them to do that and have actually urged them to do that, right? Oh, here's a really famous, prominent example. This man right here, Jacob, from, I believe, Brooklyn or Long Island, is a fantastic example of how the settler process works. This is in East Jerusalem, which is occupied by Israel, but there are a lot of historic Palestinian homes there. This is one of those historic Palestinian homes. Jacob flew in from Long Island to come to East Jerusalem and basically took over someone's house, literally.
You are stealing my house.
And if I don't steal it, someone else is going to steal it.
No one is allowed to steal it, ya ammi.
This guy definitely has a Reddit account.
Oh, yeah.
Jacob, you know this is not your house.
Yes, but if I go, you don't go back. So what's the problem? Why are you yelling at me? I didn't do this.
But
It's easy to yell at me, but I didn't do this.
You are stealing my house.
So he just came from America to steal someone's house?
Yeah. They do it all the time.
I mean, did he get the house?
I think they did. I think he did, yeah.
You're kidding.
Yeah, they've been doing this nonstop.
So they take somebody else's house.
Yeah, and the military comes in and kicks them out.
Wait, kicks out the owners of the house.
Yeah.
Bro, I'm not gonna lie. This is depressing as hell.
If you were to, like, for example, sometimes in the media they'll be like, an anti-Semitic incident occurred in a fucking Jewish community center the other week, where anti-Semitic protesters attacked Jewish people that were quietly congregating. And then you look into it, and you look into the fucking incident, and it turns out it's actually an auction. An auction for what, you might ask? An auction for houses. Houses where? Houses in the West Bank that Palestinians are occupying. In the United States of America, we have auctions for real estate of homes that do not belong to the people that are selling them.
Dude.
And when people go and protest those auctions, the American media says anti-Semitism.
Oh my God. How do you like read this stuff all day and like not like cry yourself to sleep at night? This is fucking horrible.
I'm motivated by the change that I'm motivated by the change that I might actually create in this world by educating one extra person, whether it's you or thousands of others that watch, that learn what the truth actually is, and change their minds, and then go out and protest, go out and spread the truth to other people. That's why I do it. And I've been doing this for, especially this is an issue that I've spoken about for years at this point, 10 fucking years professionally in public life. I've spoken out against Israel's actions because like a lot of people only became more knowledgeable of like the stuff that Israel was doing after October 7. But this has been ongoing. This video is from fucking 3 years ago.
By the way, I'm an example of this because I always thought Israel were the homies.
Yeah.
That's kind of how there was Peyton as me as an average guy from Michigan who just went to college.
Yeah.
So that's the picture that was kind of painted to me growing up.
So as someone who's been doing this for years and years and years, I never thought that there would be this much outward support for Palestinians. Because 5-6 years ago, when I said stuff like this, people would be like, you're anti-Semitic. You're the most anti-Semitic person I've ever seen. Fuck you.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
What was the deal with like the Jewish people in the sewers in New York? Is it all correlated, or is that just something different?
No.
Okay. So like remember that mattress with the blood on it? Like what was that?
Remember when I told you like there's like different sects of Judaism? You're technically Christian, right?
Okay.
Would you say you're Christian? No, like you're
I'm whatever gets me the least amount of hate.
okay. There's a reason why I'm asking you this question.
Yeah,
your
we're both
mom's Christian. You
Yeah.
grew up Christian, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Every other religion is exactly like that. It's like a
Yeah.
broad range of people who like are, not really committed believers, all the way to like the most committed fundamentalists, like as we call them. So under Judaism, there's a concept called like Orthodox Jews. This was
With the hats
yes.
and the
Now,
and the twirly
Orthodox
hair.
Jews, but Orthodox Jews also have like different sects inside of Orthodox Judaism. Like you have the Neturei Karta that is actually committed anti-Zionist, but they still wear the hats. And then you have other kinds of like Haredi or ultra Orthodox populations in America and in Israel as well that are really, really involved in the settlement part. Okay. Yaakov probably is an Orthodox Jew, it seems. So,
And they have to go in the sewers?
no.
Okay.
The sewers was one specific sect of like very religious Jews
Right.
that simply wanted to expand underneath the Chabad. Like they just literally wanted to. I think the ultimate goal was like to connect like two different buildings
Okay.
that they own.
Look at this guy.
What's up, dude? You look hot. This is Amnesty International. It's a non-governmental organization. It's a human rights group. Okay. They did a video a while back after declaring Israel to be an apartheid regime in the month of April in 2021.
This was before.
This was way before October.
yeah.
Yeah. Because Israel has been in apartheid for a very long time. Do you know what an apartheid is?
Nelson Mandela.
Good start. Let's watch this Amnesty International video now.
Okay.
Probably the disturbing images of racial segregation between whites and blacks in South Africa, where a regime ruled by a racist white minority declared themselves officially superior to the black majority, then proceeded to dominate them. South Africa's apartheid system officially ended in the mid-1990s, but that doesn't mean apartheid can't happen elsewhere. Here, in Israel and the occupied Palestinian territories, Palestinians are being forced off their land and out of their homes, separated and segregated by laws, walls, and checkpoints. They live in a constant state of fear and insecurity and deliberately impoverished. While, on the other hand, Israeli authorities have given the Jewish Israeli population privilege over Palestinians in just about every facet of life. The question is, does this all amount to the crime of apartheid? First, the definition of apartheid. The crime against humanity of apartheid is perpetrated when particular serious human rights violations are committed with the purpose of establishing and maintaining a system of domination by one racial group over another and systematically oppressing them. But does this system exist in Israel and the occupied Palestinian territories?
And there's been a growing debate about whether the situation in Israel and the occupied Palestinian territories is apartheid. And now is the time for us, as the world's largest human rights organization, to offer up our analysis. Our findings and criticism are directed not at the Jewish people, but at the Israeli state. It's the Israeli state that put in place the policies that implement the laws and the practices that oppress Palestinians.
Well, Israeli leaders have been clear about their intentions from the beginning. In 1948, just before he became the first Prime Minister of Israel, Ben-Gurion visited Lifta and other Palestinian areas near Jerusalem that were completely emptied of Palestinian residents following attacks by Jewish forces.
I do want to mention something here because, like, this is, you're right, a one-sided conversation from a trusted third party. Having said that, there are a litany of misinformation and cherry-picked points throughout history and genuine suppression of the truth in terms of like historic data that defenders of Israel has engaged in the Western world, especially, and in Israel as well, for a very long time. This is precisely the reason why a lot of people are also, that are educated on the matter, might actually arrive at an entirely different conclusion. Because the way that this is talking about it is the correct way, like is an accurate analysis of the events that unfolded during the Nakba, which means the catastrophe in 1948 when Israel moved on all of the Palestinian villages and like basically purged Palestinians from their ancestral homelands, what they lived in, by hundreds of thousands they moved 750. They moved 750,000 Palestinians from their homes and basically forced them.
This is 1948.
1948,
So
yes.
just after World War II.
Yes. And it's going to describe that right now, but the way that people who want to defend Israel, I'll just give you the alternative argument. I'll steel man their position as well. Those who are defenders of Israel will say, actually, no, that's not what happened. These Arabs, as a collective, were always angry at the Jews because they had anti-Semitism at their hearts, and they always wanted to, not live alongside Jews because they hate Jews. Like it's almost like a false notion of anti-Semitism created amongst the Arab population in the minds of defenders of Israel to make it seem as though like they have almost a Hitlerian, like Nazi style anti-Semitism. They'll even point to like a Grand Mufti, a Palestinian Grand Mufti, a religious leader that was actually a colonial religious leader that the British Empire had placed in position of power, but that wasn't ultimately a popular person at all, to be like, oh, Hitler literally talked to this guy actually, and he's the one who told Hitler to kill the Jews, right? Which is Holocaust revisionism. And it's Holocaust revisionism that was actually repeated by Benjamin Netanyahu, as a matter of fact, saying that the Palestinian Grand Mufti played a prominent role in getting Hitler to be anti-Semitic and do the final solution is unimaginable Holocaust revisionism. Only fucking Nazis would believe that shit, which Benjamin Netanyahu is. There are a lot of counter arguments to everything that they're talking about, but this is an accurate assessment of the truth.
Okay.
And if you are unfamiliar with the counter arguments, and if you haven't done the reading, people who are at least propagandists that want to make the truth seem different will be able to effectively wind you down. Okay, we'll be able to effectively make it seem like you're wrong. But anyway, let's continue.
He stated, "There are no Arabs, 100% Jews. If we persist, it is quite possible that in the next 6 or 8 months there will be considerable changes in the country, very considerable, and to our advantage." More than 70 years later, then Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu posted on Instagram that Israel is not a state of all its citizens, but rather the nation-state of the Jewish people and only them. So, it's no surprise that Israel built a system of racially discriminatory laws, policies, and practices that privilege only Jewish people. And Palestinians, well, Palestinians live there too. They were there before Israel was established. But, as we will explain, they've been trapped for decades in a system that treats them as a lesser, non-Jewish racial group. Before Israel was established in 1948, Palestinians comprised most of the population, around 70%, and owned the vast majority of private land, about 90%, in what was British Mandate Palestine. Jews, many of whom had emigrated from Europe, comprised around 30% of the population, and they and Jewish institutions owned about 6.5% of the land.
The port of Haifa in Palestine lies shattered by bombs and strewn with dead.
In the course of establishing Israel as a Jewish state in 1948, Israeli authorities acted to turn the situation on its head and were responsible for the mass expulsion of Palestinians and the destruction of hundreds of villages, forcing around 800,000 Palestinians out of their
came in here
homes
and just took this
and
shit.
lands. Thousands of
Yeah.
Palestinians and Jews were killed in
The counter to this, the legalese is like, oh, well, the Holocaust happened. These people were not responsible for it. As a matter of fact, 11,000 Palestinians fought against Nazi Germany, but it doesn't matter. It's besides the point. But basically, this is what settler colonialism is. And ultimately, the way that, like, in Israeli society, the way that these events are explained is totally backwards. Like, oh, it was an Arab war against Jews, and the Jews fought back, so we had to send the Arabs away. But the question in that situation is, why didn't you let them return to their homes? These are civilians. Therein lies the problem.
I think they came in wanting the whole land from the beginning.
That's precisely what it is.
And this is just what it's come down to.
Ultimately, that is the final evolution of Zionism, which is happening currently.
the context of attacks on civilians during this conflict. Today, there are around 6 million Palestinian refugees who Israel denies the right to return to their homes. After the 1967 war, Israel occupied the Palestinian territories of the West Bank,
Oh my
including
God.
East Jerusalem and Gaza. Israel's brutal military rule
I don't even want to tell you like the psychotic shit that they did during the Nakba from 1947 onwards. Plan Dalit. These are all historical texts that were literally uncovered by Israeli historians, by the way. And ironically, one of the formative Israeli historians basically uncovered it and then changed his position to, yeah, it was ethnic cleansing and it was planned, but it was good. I'm glad that it happened. And the others were like, this was completely unacceptable. What the fuck? One of which is historian Ilan Pappé, Israeli historian Ilan Pappé. He's an award-winning Israeli historian who was an academic in Israel, who left Israel, and I think he like literally gave up his citizenship too. He's like, fuck this shit. Avi Shleim, Ilan Pappé, and the last historian that I'm talking about is Benny Morris. Benny Morris is the one who was like, yes, ethnic cleansing happened, but it was good. This is one of the many things that they did. The Zionist paramilitaries attacked the village of Deir Yassin. A lot of the stuff that they talked about during October 7 was shit that like Israel had done in Deir Yassin, throwing babies in ovens and things like that.
Sorry, what?
The objective? Maintain Jewish-Israeli hegemony and maximize control of land. In the city of Jerusalem, the Israeli official policy is to maintain at least a 60% Jewish majority.
Oh, by
If
the way,
you've
Israel
always felt
supported
a
the
deep
South African
yearning for
apartheid.
Jerusalem, now is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity not only to stand within its gates, but also to build the home of your dreams there.
I mean, how did Israel feel about the Holocaust?
So where do all the Palestinians live now?
I don't think they liked it.
3.4 million live outside of
I think
Israel
there's a
in the
pretty big
occupied
part
territories,
of the-
mainly in refugee camps in neighboring countries.
I mean, it
Two-
sounds like they're trying to run it back, but in their favor.
Yeah, that actually, what you just described is like literally plays a very formative role in the Israeli nationalistic mythos. The Holocaust is like, first of all, Israel didn't exist before when the Holocaust was happening. You know that, right?
I don't know anything.
Okay, think about the timeline. 1948.
I'm learning now.
Okay, so this is years after.
How do they feel about it now?
So the Holocaust plays a incredibly important and very instructive role in the building of the Israeli nation state, and it is a part of like the national myth making for Israel. The analysis is that before the Holocaust, there were also literally centuries of pogroms where blood libel. Everyone, anytime in any fucking Russian village or in Europe or whatever, something bad was happening, they'd be like, oh, it must be the Jews that are doing that. So what would they do? They would go and fucking find all the Jews and kill them or purge them. So Jewish people have a very long history of consistently getting fucking slaughtered.
Why?
Mercilessly. There was one exception, however.
Yeah.
The Ottoman Empire. Not to fucking glaze myself too much, but the Ottoman Empire was safe haven for Jews. And a lot of Jews actually escaped the Spanish Inquisition and came to the Ottoman Empire and lived in many different parts of the Ottoman Empire, including but not limited to historic Palestine. And at the time, it was seen as like a significantly better living experience for Jews in terms of like Europe in comparison to Europe. But that's besides the point. So what I was saying was, so centuries of pogroms and the Holocaust itself was like a enough is enough moment for a lot of people, I think, where some internalize the message behind never again as like, we can never allow this to happen to anyone ever again, which is the correct message. That's the reason why that message exists. And others, namely those who are at the helm of spearheading Israeli society and building this nation, saw that as never again to us. Like just, nobody else. I don't give a fuck. We will do it ourselves, actually, even if that's what it takes, but never again to us. So it's the way I think that the Holocaust is viewed is like very complicated in Israeli society, where like there's almost an air of like resentment towards Jews that survived the Holocaust or escaped the Holocaust, where they are seen as like weak by, depending on what fucking level of mania you're operating on, where like there are a lot of hyper right-wing Israeli nationals who consider like Jews during the Holocaust to be weak. They didn't fight back. They didn't fight back enough, which is, again, ahistorical because they did fight back. That's the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising, which is analogous to, you know, October 7 in many respects. But, and that they did not know that they were being sent to death camps. Many Jews did not know that they were being sent to death camps. But the idea is like they were weak Jews and we will never be like them. We will be strong Jews. And I think that's part of the reason why Israeli society is so militant, so hyper militant. One, because it's a settler colony in the middle of a region where it's like actively purged the ethnic indigenous population. So obviously there's going to be a lot of resentment towards that. But beyond that, it's the genuine, I think like a quite reasonable assessment of the situation as if you parse through Jewish history. Like, it is understandable, bro. If your people are getting constantly fucking killed everywhere and being made to be the only reason why bad things are happening, then yeah, you're gonna fucking be like, holy shit, we cannot have this happen again. We got to be like super militant. And I think that complicates things a little bit if you're Jewish and learning about Jewish history, or if you're like a little bit interested about Jewish history. I think that is what complicates things, because there is an air of legitimacy to the generational trauma that Jewish people have experienced.
Yeah.
The problem is that generational trauma has caused Jews to be at the forefront of every single civil justice, social justice movement, civil liberty movement, including the abolition of apartheid South Africa. So while Israel was in support of apartheid South Africa, Jews played a prominent role in South African the fight against the South African apartheid.
Why was Israel for it?
Well, because they had their own apartheid and they wanted nukes. I think that was what it was, right? Didn't they fucking get like they developed their nuclear capabilities by collaborating with South Africa? I think. Am I mistaken on that?
So Israel has nukes,
Yeah.
and we still give them weapons. Why?
0.5 million Palestinians live in Israel and East Jerusalem, restricted to enclaves that make up around 3% of the entire area.
I remember
3
the meme.
million Palestinians live in the occupied West Bank, but are only allowed to access 40% of the land to
So
live
these
and work.
Palestinians, if they wanted
The
to, like,
rest of
travel
the
to
area
Europe, could
is
they
for the
leave?
Jewish Israeli settlers
Yes.
only.
Some.
2 million are trapped.
So depends. The ones in Gaza are heavily restricted in their movement. The ones in the West Bank are also heavily restricted in their movement. Israel does something really fucked up where if you leave the West Bank as a Palestinian resident in the West Bank, they make it so that it's virtually impossible for you to come back. If you have residence in America as a Palestinian, they still make it really hard for you to go there and visit, but you can go and visit because they're like, yeah, you're going to fuck off and you're going to go back to America or wherever you're from. But if you are a Palestinian resident of the West Bank and you leave the West Bank, they make it like as difficult as possible to make sure that you can't come back into the West Bank.
This is just insane. I'll be honest, man. It sounds like this whole area needs a nice reset, you know?
Okay, bro, but
Give it to me. Let me start my Paulinism there.
like when you learn this stuff, your argument shouldn't be like, oh man, it's just too complicated for me. Fuck it. Like, let God sort it out. Because God doesn't end up sorting it out. Israel sorts it out. You know what I mean?
No, not
To the
God.
Gaza Strip, one of the
Dark
most
matter.
densely populated areas in the
Supercomputer.
world. Fragmentation of the Palestinian society and the dispossession of their lands are key pillars of Israel's apartheid system to maintain domination and control. But there's more. The unequal structure of nationality and status, restrictions on freedom of movement, use
Oh
of
my
military
God, ew.
rule, denial of right to political participation or the right to peaceful protest, and cruel separation of families all add to the complex system that we see today.
The world in general hasn't woken up to the fact that there is an entrenched system of oppression against Palestinians across Israel and the occupied Palestinian territories, wherever they may live, by the Israeli state. It's a system that's been put in place and maintained for decades, and it's that system that is the root cause of so many of the violations, the misery and the suffering that millions of Palestinians face on a daily basis.
One way to understand this segregation and oppression is to look at the ID system.
What's the ID system?
Jewish Israelis have only one ID card, with a status that grants them the right to live almost anywhere they wish in the country. They can move freely with access to healthcare and vast resources. Palestinians, on the other hand, have 4 types of ID cards, if any at all. The kind of ID card you are given determines the level of rights you can enjoy and controls where you can go and what you can do. If you hold a green card, you are subject to military rule. And if you have a green card with a Gaza address, it means you're trapped in a 365-kilometre square open-air prison under Israeli military blockade in place since 2007. Israel controls what goes in and what goes out, from children's toys to medical supplies. 90%.
They literally fucking banned, at times, they call it putting the Palestinians on a diet. And they have banned, at times, things such as cookies and pasta, only for the American government to go, what the fuck? Why are you banning pasta? And then they go, okay, we'll let them have pasta.
Of the people have no access to safe drinking water, 47% are unemployed, 56% live in poverty. Palestinians with a Gaza ID are forbidden from going to Jerusalem in the West Bank, even if they have family there. Some people in the West Bank are considered to live there illegally and can be deported immediately to Gaza if found by the army, even if they have been in the West Bank for decades. Whereas, if you hold a green card which has a West Bank address, then you live here. This green card means you can live within specific
Also, if you're a fucking idiot and you only regurgitate whatever the fuck Israel says for its justifications for the genocide, like some former Twitch, now Kick streamers, you will look like an absolute baboon in front of knowledgeable people when you turn around and say, oh, they banned sugar, like cookies. Okay, they banned cookies and pasta because they're making bombs out of it.
Is that possible?
No, it's not. It's already fucking processed. It's inside of a cookie. You can't fucking, unless Palestinians have figured out something that no one else has, alchemy of that sort. Okay. You can't just fucking use cookies as a bomb making material.
Listen, the Unabomber would have figured that out if it was possible. Yeah. Ted Kaczynski had an IQ of like 175.
Yeah. If you read his writings,
I
quite the idiot, in my opinion.
What he said about technology wasn't far off.
Okay, but that's it. That's like kind of the only thing.
Everything else was crazy, but he hit the nail on the head about the society and technology. But
it was also insane, bro.
Amen.
Enclaves surrounded by illegal Israeli settlements. And there's a separation wall and fences built around you since 2002, which Palestinians call the apartheid wall. It's 8 meters high in places and 700 kilometers long. That's twice the height of the Berlin Wall and more than 4 times its length. 80% of it is built inside the West Bank, occupying even more Palestinian land.
So they actually built a wall.
There are separate roads for Israelis and Palestinians, hundreds of checkpoints scattered throughout, not to mention the 54 years of occupation, which has devastated the lives of millions of Palestinians. Palestinians with a West Bank ID can travel to Gaza or East Jerusalem, but only if they receive a permit from the military to do so. This blue ID is for Palestinians in East Jerusalem. They can travel to the occupied West Bank as well as to Israel, but they are not citizens of Israel. They have only been granted a residency status.
So how do
this
you get
means
this blue one?
that they cannot vote in Israeli national elections, and if they leave East Jerusalem for too long, for example, to study or work abroad.
It's the only, see, this is what I was talking about. They have their residency revoked. You don't get it. Like, they don't give it to you. They don't offer it to you unless you're literally already in East Jerusalem, which is a territory that Israel literally has. All right, I'll ask you this much. Would it shock you if you were to find out that Israel has open in the laws direct goals of what the population percentage of a certain area needs to look like? Well, after finding out about all this, probably not. But like, if I were to tell you, 4 hours ago that like, did you know that Israel has an interest in maintaining a certain percentage of like the Jewish population in an area?
I can't answer now because I saw earlier they said they wanted 60% or something.
Yes.
I saw that.
Yeah.
I remember.
Yeah, it is literally a part of the overarching goal of the state is like, we have to keep this area 60% Jew.
This sounds
As a Canadian citizen, I'm not allowed to fly into Tel Aviv. They would put me on a flight to go back. I'm only allowed to into the West Bank through Jordan. And I can't go to Jerusalem either without a visa from them, which they normally deny. Yeah. If you're a Palestinian, like, oh, if you're an Israeli citizen, if you're an Israeli Jew, right? Because Israel has its own demographics, which is really funny because like Israel is relatively diverse in terms of like the actual ethnic backgrounds. Because there's plenty of Arab Jews as well, right? Like if I were to put a fucking lineup and be like, which one is Palestinian, which one's Israeli, you would not be able to tell them apart. They all look fucking diverse. Like there's white ones and then there's fucking brown ones and even black ones, right? And
black what?
Jews and also Arabs. Yeah, there's Ethiopian Jews, bro.
They look like me?
I mean, you're light-skinned enough, but no. I mean, Ethiopians look kind of. I mean, I guess kind of.
Okay.
Could Nick be Ethiopian, chat? And the same goes for Arabs. Anyway.
Yeah.
Israeli society has created because of its ethno-state status. The Israeli government has created a designation. There's two tiers. You are either an Israeli citizen, like full-blown citizen, which means you're Jewish, or you are a non-Jew living inside of Israel. We call that the Palestinian citizens of Israel, the 1948ers, the people that were there that were offered citizenship at the time. The only thing that makes them different from like full-blown Israeli Jews is that they're just not Jewish, that they're either Christian or Muslim. Now, here's where things get interesting, okay? There are Arab Jews. Itamar Ben-Gvir is the Ministry of like Interior Defense or whatever, like the national police guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's fucking from Iraq. He's Arab, but he's Jewish. So even if you're Arab, you still get slotted into Jewish as your ethnic and religious background. And what's really interesting about this process is that if you are an Israeli Jewish citizen, regardless of where you're from, and you want to marry a Palestinian Muslim in the West Bank, you can't bring the Palestinian Muslim from the West Bank into Israel. Even if you get married, you have to live in the West Bank now. You can, your citizenship only goes down. Like you only get level down. You can't level up.
Okay. That is.
Yeah. I've had a conversation with a literal Arab, with a Jewish Arab from Israel, teenager.
Mm-hmm.
And in the conversation, I tried to explain to him that like he's technically Arab as well, or Itamar Ben-Gvir is Arab. And he got mad at me. He was like, no, they're not Arab. They reserve the term only for non-Jews. Calling an Israeli Jew an Arab is like calling them a slur there. Yeah.
I have another dumb question.
Yeah.
For like Gaza and like the West Bank, do they have internet?
Yeah. So there's a couple different processes. One now former HasanAbi head who was executed by the Israeli state.
Excuse me. Would one of your viewers was executed by the?
A bunch of my viewers, yes.
Shut the fuck up.
What do you mean shut the fuck up? He was also a TikToker. He also had a TikTok. Yeah.
What?
Yeah, there's a video of him. There's a video of him explaining the process of using eSIMs.
And they killed him?
Yeah. In an internet cafe.
Oh, brother. Should I not be on this stream? Oh my God.
You're not in Gaza.
Oh my God. This is wild, Hasan. This whole thing is crazy to me, man.
It's been tough bringing this up, but I don't even want to cover this aspect of it. I don't even want to talk about it. It makes me really sad to think about. But his name is Meadow. Anyway, he was a TikToker and he loved growing plants. He had like a miniature greenhouse.
You don't have to get into it if it's sad.
Anyway,
please don't.
The point is, he had a video where he talks about like how they get internet, where they go to the Egyptian border and they have eSIMs.
Yeah, yeah.
And they like fucking put the phone up so that he could pirate videos and then, watch American movies and TV.
So he would get cell service from from Egypt.
From an eSIM from Egypt, yeah.
Okay, so they don't have internet. They have to. They have to go get it their own way.
Yeah, Israel controls like the telecommunications as well. Like they would routinely blow up. He thinks they killed him because he watches you. No, he did. They didn't kill him because he watches me. They killed him because he's just a Palestinian, and you know, they don't care.
Oh my God.
But yeah, basically they control internet access. They'll blow like telecommunication centers. Like they'll blow up cell towers and stuff every now and then to force a blackout. In the early stages of the genocide, they would just like blow up the cell towers to do a complete communication blackout so that people couldn't get the word out about what was going on. But nowadays, they don't even feel the need to do that because people just don't care. Like, so many people have died and Americans don't care. Israel only offers justification for the people that they've killed if it becomes a fucking major news story in the West, too. That's the other thing. Like, World Central Kitchen, led by Jose Andres, American chef, very famous, Barack Obama's favorite chef. World Central Kitchen was literally, like, Jose Andres of World Central Kitchen was like defending Israel in the early months of October, being like, Israel has a right to defend itself. He was like shitting on a fucking Spanish parliament member who was saying like Israel does not have a right to fucking destroy Palestinian lives like this. Stop it. He was like, you know, critically defending Israel and stuff. So this guy is World Central Kitchen, right? Yes, he's from Spain. I know. But he's like very famous in America. Shut the fuck up. Anyway, he's done a lot of good stuff around the world. So he collaborates with the Israeli government. The Israeli government's like, oh, this will be good PR for us if we get this fucking famous Spanish chef who is a Zionist himself to go and like deliver food. So the World Central Kitchen basically operates in a similar capacity to UNRWA. Oh my God, I can't even begin to explain what UNRWA is to you. Never mind, I'm not even going to get into the Refugee Relief Works Agency. So they go and they hire Palestinians and they try to use like Palestinian kitchens. They try to use the Palestinian food. Like if they go to an area that is impacted, they try to hire the people there. So it's like double aid. You know what I mean? They give them money and they, they give them money and they use their own logistical supply chains. Anyway, it's a wonderful organization.
Yeah.
It is also comprised of Westerners like Americans, British people, Australian people. They go down there.
Yeah.
World Central Kitchen was in collaboration with the Israeli government when they were offering humanitarian aid to the Palestinians on the ground. There's a process called deconfliction. It's like a military term that it's like a military term that is used like when you're coordinating your movement in a war zone so they don't fucking kill you.
Sure.
Right? Ambulances do this as well. Palestinian Red Crescent does this with the Israeli government. They get killed all the time, but they're Palestinians, so that doesn't really matter to the rest of the world. But World Central Kitchen was engaging in deconfliction with the Israeli military, and they were going through the expected route. The Israeli they call it a rogue brigade, but it was just like any other fucking brigade because it's a kill zone. Triple tapped that convoy and executed 7 World Central Kitchen humanitarian aid workers. This was a major news story for a week.
Including the guy from Spain?
No, not Jose Andres. He's still alive. But he changed his attitude about Israel quite dramatically after that experience where he was like, what the fuck are you doing? You just killed my friends. But only after that, he, changed his tune on Israel and the genocide. Not that it matters because nothing came of it. No changes were made. The people that engaged in the act got barely a fucking slap on the wrist.
Dude.
Yeah.
Is that them?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Israel slaughters Americans. Israel slaughters people from Australia, Poland, USA and Canada, UK.
Even the LA Times actually said UCLA cancels classes after counter-protesters violently attack pro-Palestinian camp.
This was actually an interesting instance where mainstream media basically said counter-protesters, pro-Israeli counter-protesters, violently attacked the pro-Palestinian camp. But watch what happens quickly.
Mainstream media being like, yeah, listen up, big dog. You guys f***ed up a little bit.
Dismantle the pro-Palestinian camp.
Wait, check out the LA Times headline now. Much more ambiguous. No. Dude, are you serious? After violent protests at UCLA, UC president launches investigation into response.
Why'd they change it?
They changed it because it was too fucking anti-Israel. In real time, we watched it happen. They were like, all right, well, maybe the first headline wasn't great. We should...
They definitely...
Yeah, look. Yeah. Gunfire kills, wounds dozens in hospital, encircled by Israeli tanks. Who did it?
They definitely know who you are.
Who fucking did it, bro? Who did it? Gunfire kills, wounds dozens in hospital, as though this is a fucking naturally occurring phenomenon, you know, in Gaza. It's just how it works.
Bro, this whole thing is just honestly horrifying.
Yeah. And I mean, they do this for a lot of shit. It's not just for like Israel, you know? Whenever there is capital interest, you will always have similar things happen.
So I got a question.
What?
So when you see an article like this, what you probably do is look into it more to see what actually happened, right? Is that how it works?
Yeah.
Because the average person will see his article and move on with their day.
Yeah, and that's the informed person. The average person doesn't know or give a fuck about any of this shit. But the informed population that want to learn about it will read these articles and will, you know, their takeaway will be whatever the fuck the article wants you to think.
Like an LSF thread.
I don't know why you would compare it to LSF in that regard, but I guess it's correct.
Because people read the titles and just assume that's what happened.
Yeah, you're right. That's not wrong. And they clip chimp too.
Yeah. Holy man, like you got to put in a lot of effort if you really want to know what's going on.
Yeah, it's not easy.
It's not easy.
And that's why I also consistently try to tell people that are like newcomers in this community, like everything you've heard about me has a very specific purpose. It is to sully my reputation. To
I
make
always
sure
defend
that,
you, by the way, in the morning.
to make sure that, I know, to make sure that like you don't come in here with a clear mind or a clear conscience and a level of charitability. Your impact in here is supposed to be uncharitable so that you don't listen to what I have to say. And you've already automatically declared me someone who is like biased against your interests. And it's someone who is like sinister.
I know this stuff's cooked because I talked to my dad about this once and the things that he was saying blew my mind. I'm like, Dad, I can't believe you just said this.
Yeah.
Because he, especially with like the drops, like when they were dropping the stuff, it was crazy.
Your videos on the Lebanon pager attack? Yeah. Remember when Israel blew up pagers in Lebanon?
That was recently.
Yeah. Like 7 days ago. Israel has since killed 800 people in Lebanon.
With pagers.
No, with fucking direct bombing campaigns. But at the time they killed like, I think 11 with the pagers, including 2 children, right? And they maimed up like 3,000 people on top of that. And the media covered it as like this phenomenal instance of espionage against a scary enemy combatant. They blew up civilian communications devices after infiltrating a supply chain, not knowing who ended up with those fucking pagers at all. And yet, of course, they killed a bunch of people that were civilians in the process. You can't even kill enemy combatants when they're not in war anyway. That's still a war crime regardless. It was a war crime after a war crime. It was a double war crime. It was an act of terror. And that's precisely what it did. It caused psychological trauma to the civilian population that was worried about their fucking household goods. They were like, is my fucking toaster going to explode next? That's what happened.
Oh my God.
That is an act of terror. The media literally covered it as though it was actually a phenomenal tactical instance of Israeli espionage. And a lot of people don't actually scratch the surface. They just look at that and they go, yeah, you know what? This is great. 4-year-old Lebanese girl Naya Ghazi was among the 14 Israel killed today. Her body was recovered several hours later from under the rubble.
Thank you.
I mean, we're not going to see her blow up, are we? Or anything like that? Okay, please. Why would that be awesome if you're blowing up civilians with pagers?
Because it's the enemy. They're killing enemies. They're killing Arabs. And the Arabs that die as collateral damage is simply just like Arabs that shouldn't have been in the way. Okay? That's what it is. That's how dehumanization works. This is also, this is why a lot of people despise American foreign policy, like absolutely hate American foreign policy. The craziest part of it is that they say these guys are human shields. That's like the Israeli propaganda for it. They're like, oh, well, they're human shields. They're in the way of our bombs.
You know what makes you kind of wonder? How much of like, after like 9/11, the stuff that I was told as American citizens was just not true?
A lot of it. Why did we invade Afghanistan?
I don't fucking know.
Why did we invade Iraq?
The bad guys were there.
Yeah. They hadn't, brother, 17 of the 19 hijackers were Saudi.
I know.
Why did we not invade Saudi Arabia and just went to random countries instead? Now, for Afghanistan, you could say, oh, they were holding Osama bin Laden. Okay. Turns out he was in Pakistan anyway, which is, again, next to the fucking Pakistani military training facility. He was living there. But regardless, when he was in Afghanistan, we had the opportunity to extract him without invading Afghanistan, but we invaded anyway.
Do you like George W. Bush?
Fuck no.
Well, when he dodged those shoes.
That was unfortunately one of those instances where you hate hearing about someone who is worthy of so much more worse things, but he just got good reflexes in that time.
Did you see him tell a security guard to back off when the second shoe was coming?
No.
He did. He told us, I got this. I'm going to dodge this shoe. That's all I know.
Whew.
Man.
They lied about WMDs in Iraq. They were like, oh, they have, WMDs. We got to go invade Iraq. Iraq was even less involved than Afghanistan was. And Afghanistan wasn't even fucking involved at all. Bush rejects Taliban offer to hand bin Laden.
Excuse me?
9:30 p.m. update. Taliban demand evidence of bin Laden's guilt. Second week of airstrike starts. Taliban urges U.S. to halt bombing.
Wait, they were going to hand him over?
Yeah, dude.
Didn't it take us 10 years to find this guy? And Barack was like, we got him.
Don't even get me started on Osama bin Laden was a known asset.
I know.
And even before, there were plenty of people who did not like him and were actually against him amongst the Mujahideen, not the Taliban, but other groups in the Mujahideen in Afghanistan. On 9/10, they assassinated the guy who wanted to fucking give warn America about Osama bin Laden. But yeah, they rejected the Taliban offer to hand bin Laden, and they said, we don't negotiate with terrorists.
Okay, this might be a loaded question. I'm learning everything for the first time. Everything seems new to me. Was bin Laden behind 9/11?
Yes.
Okay. So not everything I know is a lie.
No.
Okay. All right.
But bin Laden was before 9/11.
All right.
Osama bin Laden for many, many years got positive coverage even from the Western news. Did you know that?
No, I'd never heard of the guy before that happened.
Let me show you the tape.
No, oh no. There's a tape?
No, it's not a tape.
Didn't he play Counter-Strike?
Oh, this in the newspaper, this also had a photo of Osama bin Laden. Anti-Soviet warrior puts his army on the road to peace. The Saudi businessman who recruited Mujahideen now uses them for large-scale building projects in Sudan. Robert Fisk met him in Al-Matik. 1993.
This is
here's the photo, I think. Yeah, here it is. There he is. All 6'7" of old glory.
He
right
was
there.
6'7"?
Yeah, he's tall as hell, bro.
Did he play basketball?
He should have. The reason why you are completely not knowledgeable of all these affairs is because it would make you go fucking crazy if you constantly thought about this shit. And the entire purpose of the media is to basically dull your sensibilities into not knowing any of this shit. What I have to deal with is something that's worse. You are fantastic. You're charitable. You're curious. You're interested in this intellectually, and you're not going to like immediately be resistant to what I have to say. But the average person that constantly gets all of this fucking propaganda, okay, already has a resilience to what I have to say, and sometimes will go forth and defend it, okay? They will defend the Israeli actions. That's what fucking pisses me off more than anything else. Motherfuckers that are not knowledgeable come in here and repeat talking points that they heard from some fucking YouTuber who is also not knowledgeable on the issue, but they're also like, now the person is repeating a person that didn't already have like the full scope of the story and are like not even remembering the talking points correctly. And they're just pissing me the fuck off because they're so smarmy and fucking annoying about it. They're like, and also on top of that, they, especially in this instance, they'll also package it with like a shit ton of Islamophobic sentiment to be like, this morning, someone fucking came in and was like, I heard your pager is beeping. Like, that's like a threat. You know what I mean? He's saying like,
oh my God,
you're Hezbollah and you're going to blow up. Like I hope the American government kills you. That's what that means. And it's very frustrating because like, if you interrogate that person and try to figure out where they came to this conclusion, they have no knowledge whatsoever because it takes nothing to just be like, you're a fucking dirty, sand N-word and you're going to blow up. It takes nothing to say that.